Hi guys, welcome to my channel, A Prince Review. Today we're going to be going over Valiant Comics Harbinger. This will be my first ever YouTube video, and I thought it'd be great to start with one of the dopest comic book companies out there, Valiant Entertainment. If you guys are interested in any Valiant history, there will be some links listed down below. If you guys like this video, make sure you subscribe, hit the like, and don't forget to leave a comment down below. With that being said, let's get started. So with issue 1, we start off with two main characters, Peter Sanchak and Toyo Harada. And the story opens up with a young Toyo Harada. We're taken back in time to an 18-year-old Harada in 1951. We see him entering a temple he's been searching for, but is greeted by an army of soldiers. We then see Harada use his powers to force the soldiers to turn on each other, and they all kind of wind up killing each other, and that's that. No more problems. We then see Harada enter the temple and is greeted by a bleeding monk. And just a side note here, the origins or background of the bleeding monk isn't known, but we do know that the monk is connected to various powerful Sayats like Harada, but he doesn't communicate with them directly. The Sayats are individuals like Harada that have these special powers. So we learn that the monk has been communicating with Harada, and although their conversations are a bit obscure, we find out that the discussion is about the future, which leads us to believe that the monk may have some involvement in how future events will go. So let me know what you guys think about the monk, what ideas you have about him, what purpose you think he serves in the comments down below. We then switch to the introduction of Peter Sanchak, and we see him and the world around him. We learn right away that he's telepathic, and he hears dozens and dozens of voices in his head, and he uses pills to subdue his powers. And he's not alone. We meet his friend Joe Irons, and we find out that Joe has a mental disorder that causes him to be extremely unstable. And Peter's there to make sure that he takes his pills and keeps him calm. And even though Peter is telepathic, he leaves Joe's mind alone. And this shows us the level of respect Peter has for Joe and where their friendship is at. They find an empty house for sale to crash out at for the night, and we learn that the two are on the run from a mental institution. We then switch to a present-day Toyo Harada, and we learn that he has become this billionaire control the world type of guy who has his hands in everything from politics to the military, sciences, businesses, and more. And we also learn that he has been searching for Peter. And we know Toyo has his own ideas of what he wants for the future. So the question is, what does he want with Peter, and how does Peter fit into his plans? When we switch back to Peter and Joe, we see Peter about to leave, but before he goes, he makes sure Joe takes his medicine. And when he heads out, Joe spits his pill out. He spits his pill out, Now, a lot of people with mental disorders think that once they get on a certain level of calmness that they don't have to take it anymore, or they feel like it messes with their head and they can't be themselves. But eventually they start to act erratic and unstable again. And that's exactly what happens. Now, need I remind you, these two are crashing out in the suburbs, and when you think of the suburbs, you think of happy places, quiet homes, no trouble is caused, and when a scene gets caused, the police get called, and that's exactly what happens, because Joe causes a huge scene. He's out feeding these birds, he's a stranger, nobody knows who he is, somebody calls the police, and not only do they get him, they recognize him, and they are on the run from a mental institution. So the last thing Joe and Peter need is for cops to be involved. While this is happening, Peter goes to confront an old friend, a girl named Chris, and we find out that it's somebody that he had deep feelings for, and that she was pretty much his only friend, or so he thought she was his only friend, because when he goes to confront her about his feelings, she rejects him. She tells him, you creep me out. The whole town thought you were creepy. I don't want you around me. Stay away from me. And what does he do? What does he do? He uses his powers to make her fall in love with him. And I don't mean just in love with him. I mean in love with him. Like deeply in love. Like all she knows is Peter. Peter's her whole world. She eats, thinks, breathes, pees Peter. So this tells us two things. That Peter is at a really low point in his life, and that he uses his powers based off of whatever situation that he's in. There is no bigger plot to what he's doing. It's just from situation to situation and whatever he deems necessary. And so Joe is caught. He has been captured by one of the individuals that they have been running from. His name is Mr. Toll, and Mr. Toll is interrogating Joe, trying to figure out Peter's location. And Joe reveals to us that before they escaped, Peter wiped Mr. Toll's mind, and he's wondering how he was able to get his memory back. When you think things got serious, they got worse than serious, because Peter sleeps with Chris. He sleeps with her. Oh my god, he sleeps with her. Am I the only one that sees how crazy this is? It got crazy because he's pretty much controlling her on how she feels, how she thinks, because those thoughts aren't her own. He put those there. So at this point, we don't really know what Peter's going to be like. Is he going to be a good guy? Is he going to be a bad guy? And it shows us just how easily a person can go to either side based on their life experiences, no matter what their intentions may be. While we're in this moment, we see that Toyo Harada has found Peter. And initially reading this, I didn't know if this was a good thing or a bad thing. I feel like the writers did a really good job of building up these characters, because you don't know. You just don't know what side either of them are on. In reading this, you do pick up bits and pieces that something isn't right with the both of them, so you don't know where to take it. Now that Harada is in Peter's mind, communicating with him telepathically, he's giving him a speech about who he is and what they both are. And Harada explains that he has the same powers as Peter. The only difference is he's able to control them on a much larger scale. He then continues to give Peter the "come with me and I'll show you the way" speech. And Peter is really considering this because he's been a bit destructive with his powers and he doesn't want to be, and he sees how easily he can be without any help. When Harada leaves Peter, Peter comes back to reality and he looks up to see Joe standing above him. And above Joe is a helicopter. They have been found, and it seems to be not just a mental institution that they've been running from. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm going to try to get a video up every week and a half, depending on my work schedule allows, so that we can continue these discussions. I'm also going to bring in some extra characters from the Valiant universe that play a role in Harbinger until we can get into separate characters and their storyline. If you guys have any suggestions or would like for me to go into more detail about each issue, please make sure you leave a comment down below. Once again, don't forget to like, subscribe, and thanks again for watching. Bye.